My name is Evelyn Harper. I'm 45 years old, and I didn't know my life was about to split cleanly into a before and an after until I was sitting in my home office, staring at a thick envelope with my name typed in bold legal font. Notice of claim. Filed against me by the man I'd been dating for 11 months. I laughed at first, a sharp, disbelieving sound that echoed off the walls of a room I'd carefully built for peace. Then I read the words again. Palimony lawsuit. I had to sit down. Let me rewind, because none of this makes sense without context. 3 months ago, I thought I was finally one of the lucky ones, not because my life was glamorous, but because it was quiet. I'd been divorced for 8 years. No messy custody battles, no financial ruin. I worked as a senior software engineer for a medical logistics firm, earned a solid income, invested conservatively, and owned my home outright. A 4-bedroom place I'd bought on my own after the divorce. My kids, Lucas 16 and Emily 14, lived with their father during the week and stayed with me every other weekend. We had a rhythm, a calm one. And then I met Daniel Reeves. It was at a wine tasting fundraiser downtown. One of those networking heavy events where people pretend they're there for charity, but really just want to be seen. Daniel was charming in a low-key way, not flashy, not pushy. He listened more than he talked. Said he worked as a business consultant, helped companies restructure operations. When I asked for details, he stayed vague. I noticed. I ignored it. We started dating casually. Dinners, weekend trips, long conversations that felt adult, easy. He said all the right things without saying too much. After 4 months, he asked if he could stay over more often. I hesitated. He reassured me he wasn't trying to rush anything. He even insisted on keeping his own apartment for tax purposes. Said he valued independence. That should have been my second red flag. Instead, I saw it as responsibility. He moved in slowly, brought a suitcase, then another, paid me $800 a month toward expenses. Not half the mortgage, but enough to feel fair. I don't want to be a burden, he said once, smiling. I believed him. For a while, everything felt normal. We traveled, cooked together. He met my kids and was respectful, careful not to overstep. Lucas tolerated him. Emily liked him. That mattered. I thought I was being smart this time. I wasn't. 3 weeks ago, Daniel asked me to sit down. He had that tone. The one people use when they're about to say something they've already rehearsed. Evelyn, we need to talk about our future. My stomach tightened. I assumed marriage, or at least finances. What about it? I asked. I think it's time we formalize things, legally. I frowned. You mean a joint account? He laughed softly, almost kindly. No, I mean protecting my interests. That's when he said it. My lawyer believes I'm entitled to palimony. I stared at him, convinced I'd misheard. Palimony? Yes. We're not married. We've cohabitated for over 6 months. This state doesn't recognize common law marriage. His face changed. Not angry. Not emotional. Calculating. My lawyer disagrees. That was the moment I realized I didn't know the man sitting across from me. He started listing things. The appreciation of my home. My investment gains. My annual bonus. He'd had everything calculated. About $200,000, he said calmly, for 11 months of dating. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the alternative was screaming. You paid $800 a month, I said. You kept your apartment. I contributed emotionally. I gave up opportunities. You're extorting me. It's not extortion, he replied. It's what I deserve. He slid a document across the table. 20 pages. A demand for a lump sum plus $3,000 a month for 3 years. I stood up. Get out. He smiled. You can't just kick me out. You're a guest who pays rent. No lease, no tenant protections beyond notice. Pack your things. He stormed into the bedroom, shouting about regret and lawyers and consequences. A framed photo crashed to the floor when he slammed the door. He left that night. 3 weeks later, I was served. And that's where part 1 of this nightmare truly begins. The first thing I did after the shock wore off was something I should have done months earlier. I started asking questions. Not out loud, not to friends, not to my kids. I asked the internet. I'm a software engineer by trade. Problem solving is muscle memory for me. When something doesn't add up, I don't spiral. I investigate. And Daniel Reeves, he didn't add up. I started simple. Public records, social media, LinkedIn. Daniel had always said he was between projects, which explained why I never saw him go into an office or talk about coworkers. His LinkedIn profile existed, but it was thin. A consultant with no endorsements, no company pages, no recent updates. Odd, but not damning. Then I noticed something else. The profile photo was him, but it looked older. Different haircut, different weight. The timestamp showed it hadn't been updated in over 2 years. I saved the image and ran a reverse image search. That's when the floor started to tilt. The same photo popped up under a different name. Daniel Caldwell, interior design consultant. Different job, same face. I clicked deeper. Another result. Daniel Morrison, life coach. Same man, different career. Different last name. 3 identities. My hands were cold on the mouse. People reinvent themselves all the time. That's what I told myself. Freelancers, consultants, fluid careers. But something in my gut had already crossed the line from uneasy to alarmed. I paid for a background check. I almost didn't open the results. When I did, the room went very quiet. Daniel Michael Morrison. Age 46. Marital status, married. Spouse, Rachel Morrison. Marriage date, 2018. Status, active. I read it 3 times. Married. The entire time we were together. The address listed for his spouse was an apartment complex 30 minutes away. One he'd told me was a client's property. I felt sick. But it didn't stop there. Court records populated beneath his name. 2019. Breach of promise to marry, filed against a woman named Samantha Lee. Dismissed. 2020. Palimony claim, filed against Dr. Hannah Patel. Settled out of court. 2021. Domestic partnership financial support claim, filed against Marissa Cole. Dismissed. And now, me. This wasn't desperation. This was a pattern. I sat there for a long time, staring at the screen, replaying every memory through a new lens. The rushed intimacy, the vague answers, the insistence on receipts, the way he talked about legal protections like they were pillow talk. I wasn't his girlfriend. I was his next case. I called my lawyer immediately. Robert Klein had handled my divorce years earlier. Calm, methodical. A man who didn't overreact, which meant when he went quiet, it mattered. I explained everything, sent him the report. There was a long pause. Evelyn, he finally said, this isn't just a civil issue. What do you mean? If he was married and concealed it, that's fraud. If there's a pattern of lawsuits, that's potentially criminal. My chest tightened. What do we do? We don't settle, Robert said firmly. We respond. We countersue. And I strongly recommend contacting the district attorney once we've organized everything. And his wife? I asked quietly. That's your call, but if it were me, I'd want to know. I stared at the name on the screen. Rachel Morrison. Her social media was public. Normal. Too normal. Photos from years ago. Wedding pictures. Smiling. Hopeful. More recent ones showed her alone. No ring. Tired eyes. Forced smiles. I drafted a message at least 6 times before sending it. Hi, Rachel. I know this is awkward, but important. I recently dated someone named Daniel Morrison and just discovered he is still legally married to you. I believe we need to talk. She replied in under an hour. Oh God, not again. Can we meet? We met at a quiet cafe downtown. Rachel arrived early. She looked exhausted in a way that went beyond lack of sleep. When she saw me, she didn't look angry. She looked relieved. So, she said softly as she sat down, he got you too. That sentence broke something open in me. She pulled out a thick folder and placed it between us. "I've been documenting everything for the divorce," she explained. "But he keeps dodging service, claims he'll destroy me financially if I try." Inside were screenshots, bank statements, court filings. Daniel had been running this scam for years, while married to her. He'd tell women he was single, move in fast, create a paper trail of small contributions, then threaten legal action. Most settled quietly. "He's made at least $400,000, Rachel said, voice flat, "using my money half the time." My stomach dropped. The $800 a month Daniel paid me came from Rachel's account. He'd used his wife's money to pay rent while setting up a palimony claim against me. But then Rachel showed me something that made my hands shake. Screenshots of Daniel texting his lawyer. "Evelyn's perfect. Big house, solid portfolio, divorced, lonely, easy mark. Needs 6 months cohabitation minimum. Keep receipts. She trusts me." I felt heat rush to my face. The vacations, the dinners, meeting my kids, all of it was a con. But then something else settled in. Cold. Focus. Because Daniel had made a mistake. In his lawsuit, he'd sworn under oath that he was single, that he'd given up his apartment, that he was financially dependent on me. All lies. Provable lies. Under oath. That wasn't just fraud. That was perjury. And perjury comes with handcuffs. We spent hours comparing notes. Rachel had evidence of 6 women. 2 had settled, 3 had cases dismissed. Now me. And the lawyer, she added. It's always the same one. She slid over a business card. Mitchell Vaughn. A quick search showed a slick website full of buzzwords about alternative relationship compensation. Reviews were mixed. Brilliant. Predatory. Dangerous. "We need to work together," I said. Rachel nodded. "I want this to end." As I left the cafe, I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't scared. I was angry. And Daniel had no idea what was coming. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. After meeting Rachel, every memory reorganized itself into something uglier, sharper. The affection Daniel showed me wasn't spontaneous. It was strategic. The timing of his vulnerability, the way he mirrored my values, even the arguments we didn't have, all curated. Robert moved fast. Within 48 hours, we filed a formal response to Daniel's palimony claim, along with a countersuit for fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and conversion of funds obtained under false pretenses. But the real weight came from the criminal angle. The district attorney's office didn't brush us off. They leaned in. "This looks like a pattern," the assistant DA told us over a call. "If we can establish coordination with counsel, it escalates." Conspiracy. That word changed everything. Rachel and I shared everything. Bank records, screenshots, timelines. Together, our stories formed a clean arc of deception that no amount of charm could erase. Daniel, meanwhile, escalated. Predictably, it started online. A post appeared on his social media. Public, emotional, carefully vague. I never thought I'd be the kind of man destroyed by trusting the wrong woman. Some people will use power and money to silence you. People I didn't know commented with sympathy. Others messaged me directly. "Why would you throw him out? He seems so sweet. You can't just discard someone." Then came the photos. Pictures of us together, vacation shots, smiling selfies, captions about betrayal, about being left homeless. My kids saw them. Lucas came into my kitchen one evening, phone clenched in his hand. "Mom," he said carefully, "is this true?" Emily didn't say anything. She just watched my face. That hurt more than anything Daniel had done. I told them the truth. Age-appropriate, steady, unembellished. That Daniel wasn't who he said he was. That adults sometimes lie very well. That it wasn't their fault for liking him. They believed me. Still, the damage lingered. A week later, Daniel showed up at my office. Security called before he even reached the lobby. "He's crying," the guard said, "causing a scene." I didn't go down. HR did. By the time they called me in, they already knew. I brought everything. Marriage certificate, prior lawsuits, screenshots, bank transfers. The HR director's face hardened with each page. "We'll ban him from the premises immediately," she said. "This is harassment." I nodded, exhausted but steady. I thought that would be the peak of his recklessness. I was wrong. 2 nights later, Rachel called me. "He's spiraling," she said quietly, and blaming me. Daniel had confronted her at their apartment, screaming about betrayal, about loyalty, about how she was supposed to stay quiet. "You ruined everything," he'd shouted. "You were supposed to protect me." Rachel recorded it. Every word. She sent the audio to Robert and the DA, another brick in the wall closing around him. The smear campaign intensified. Daniel emailed my ex-husband, messaged coworkers, claimed emotional abuse, financial manipulation, gaslighting. The irony was almost poetic. Robert filed a motion citing harassment and witness intimidation. The judge granted it. Daniel was ordered, formally, to cease all contact. He violated it within 24 hours. The pre-trial hearing loomed. Rachel and I sat together in the courtroom gallery, not touching, not talking, just existing in the same space with shared resolve. Daniel entered with confidence that felt rehearsed. Clean suit, soft expression. His lawyer, Mitchell Vaughn, walked beside him like a man who believed the room belonged to him. Mitchell spoke first. He painted a careful narrative. Daniel as a vulnerable man discarded by a powerful woman once she got bored. He spoke of emotional labor, of unrecognized sacrifice. Daniel dabbed his eyes. Then Robert stood. "Your Honor," he said calmly, "before we address any financial claims, we need to address perjury." Mitchell objected immediately. "Inflammatory and prejudicial." Robert didn't flinch. "The plaintiff has made sworn statements that are demonstrably false." The judge allowed it. Robert presented the marriage certificate. Daniel went pale. Then the active lease. Then the bank statements, showing substantial assets inconsistent with claimed dependents. Finally, the prior lawsuits. A pattern. The courtroom shifted. The judge's expression darkened. "Mr. Reeves," she asked sharply, "are you currently married?" Daniel stood slowly. "It's complicated." "Yes or no?" she said. "Yes." "And you stated under oath that you were single?" "Yes." Silence. The judge turned to the clerk. "Contact the district attorney. We have probable cause for perjury." Daniel's head snapped toward Mitchell. "This is your fault," he hissed. "You said this would work." Mitchell froze. "You knew he was married," Rachel said from the gallery, voice steady, but loud enough to carry. The judge's eyes flicked to her. "Ms. Morrison," she said, "please remain seated." Then she turned back to Mitchell. "How many similar cases have you filed with this client?" Mitchell, "I invoke my Fifth Amendment right." The courtroom murmured. The judge didn't smile. "This civil claim is dismissed with prejudice," she ruled. "The defendant is awarded legal fees, and both plaintiff and counsel are referred for criminal investigation." Daniel sagged. But the collapse wasn't over. Outside the courtroom, everything unraveled. Daniel screamed at Rachel, accusing her of betrayal, of ruining his life. Cameras appeared. Phones came out. Rachel handed him divorce papers right there on the courthouse steps. "I've been trying to serve you for 2 years, she said quietly. "Now you can't run." Mitchell walked away fast. Daniel chased after him, shouting about promises and partnerships. Someone recorded everything. It went viral within hours. And 2 days later, the arrests came. The arrests happened quietly. No dramatic dawn raid. No flashing lights outside my house. Just a call from Robert on a Tuesday morning while I was pouring coffee. "They picked him up," he said, "and Vaughn. Both in custody." I closed my eyes. I hadn't realized how tightly I'd been holding my breath until that moment. The charges came fast. Conspiracy to commit fraud, multiple counts of fraud, perjury, filing false legal documents, extortion. The DA's office moved with unsettling efficiency. Once the pattern was laid bare, Daniel's case stopped being about me or even Rachel. It became about scale. Local news picked it up within days. Serial romance scammer and attorney arrested in Palimony scheme. They interviewed 2 of the women Daniel had targeted before me. One cried on camera, saying she'd always known something was wrong, but had been made to feel crazy. Another admitted she'd settled just to make it go away. Rachel watched the coverage from her couch, wrapped in a blanket, silent. I kept thinking if I stayed quiet, it would stop, she said later. It never does. The civil cases followed. Every woman Daniel had sued, or threatened to sue, lawyered up. His accounts were frozen, assets seized pending investigation. Rachel's divorce went through faster than she'd dared hope. The prenup Daniel had insisted on years earlier to protect his future earnings ended up protecting hers. He got nothing. The irony was sharp enough to taste. My case resolved cleanly. Daniel was ordered to pay all my legal fees, plus damages. When the final number came in, Robert whistled softly. Financially, he said, you came out ahead. That wasn't how it felt, but it mattered. 3 weeks before the criminal trial, I ran into Daniel at the grocery store. He was out on bail. I almost didn't recognize him. The confidence was gone. The posture collapsed inward. His clothes hung loose. His face looked unfinished, like someone had erased the edges. Evelyn, he said, voice cracking. Please, can we talk? No, I replied, without slowing. It got out of control, he said, following me a step. It didn't start like this. I actually cared about you. I stopped then, turned. You called me an easy mark, I said evenly. You met my children under false pretenses. You tried to steal from me using the legal system. He flinched. I'm going to lose everything. You already did, I said. You just didn't notice when it happened. He started crying. Not the practice tears from court, the messy, humiliating kind. I'm going to jail. Probably, I said. He whispered something about manipulation, about how Vaughn pushed him, about his marriage falling apart. Your marriage fell apart because you were running romance scams, I said. Take responsibility. I walked away. He didn't follow. The criminal trial took 3 days. Daniel pleaded guilty to reduced charges. 2 counts of fraud, 1 count of perjury. Sentence: 18 months in minimum security, followed by 3 years probation and $300,000 in restitution to his victims. Mitchell Vaughn fared worse. The investigation revealed he'd been running variations of the scheme with multiple clients. He lost his law license, received a 3-year prison sentence, and nearly $1 million in restitution obligations. The courtroom was silent when the verdicts were read. No cheers, no triumph, just closure. 6 months later, life looks normal again. Quiet. The way I value it now feels earned. Rachel moved to a smaller apartment across town. She texts occasionally, updates about work, a new yoga class, the relief of not waking up afraid. I feel like myself again, she told me once. Or maybe I'm finally meeting her. My kids surprised me through all of this. Lucas joked, "At least you found out before he became our stepdad." Emily, ever practical, said, "Next time, maybe Google them first." Fair. I started dating again last month, carefully, deliberately. No moving fast, no shared keys, no blind trust wrapped in charm. The man I'm seeing now is a pediatrician. His office exists. His colleagues exist. His life matches his stories. We're taking it slow, peacefully. Last week, I received a letter, return address, the correctional facility. I didn't open it. Neither did Rachel when she got hers. Some chapters don't need commentary. They just need to end. Looking back, the red flags were always there. Love bombing. Vague work details. Keeping an apartment just in case. Never introducing friends or colleagues. Pushing legal conversations into intimacy. The biggest lesson wasn't about dating. It was about listening to that quiet voice inside, the one that notices inconsistencies before the brain explains them away. Trust your gut. Verify what you're told. And if someone starts talking about lawyers and entitlements before you've even hit a year, run. I didn't know my life was about to fracture when Daniel sat across from me and asked for something that didn't belong to him. But I know this now. He didn't take my peace. He reminded me how hard I'd worked to build it, and I won't hand it over again.